Yo, 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 YouTube. Today I'm going to show you how to properly remove your cards from a Sports Illustrated for Kids magazine. Check this out. Alright, so I got a stack of Sports Illustrated for Kids magazines here that I had bought. The cards are intact in most of them. I think there's 2 magazines that didn't have cards. This one, you can see here, definitely does. And I started taking the cards out and separating them. I think I did a pretty good job. This is the first one I did. Came out pretty clean. Tony Stewart, Victor Cruz. That one's got a little bit of roughage on it. Missy Franklin, Hillary Knight, Kyle Lowry, John Florence, and Maurice Jones-Drew out of that first magazine. Okay, so I want to show you best practices on taking these out. I've done this on quite a few copies now, so I'm going to show you on this one here. A couple of key cards in here: the Durant, Shaun White, Abby Wambach for Team USA, and I think the Victoria Azarenka, I believe that's her rookie card as well. So anyway, the way the cards come is they're perforated in this page, and then they're attached, binded to the magazine, of course. So what I like to do is not work with the full magazine. So what I want to do is just get the page turned over here, not cut along this perforation.
Cut them up. I'm not going to do that.
Do not cut that card.
Perforation where you tear the card out, but right next to the binding of the actual book, just so that I can get the page out and it'll be easier to start to take the cards out. Actually, I'm gonna get rid of these other magazines for now so they're not in my way. Okay, so the goal here is simply to get it out of the magazine safe and sound, and then we'll start working on how to get the cards out. So you want to be careful that you don't bend the page too much. You might have to turn it around and kind of start on the other side as well. I don't really want to ruin the magazine either. I could just take the whole magazine apart, but some of these I haven't even looked at yet. I bought the magazines for the cards, but I think it'll be kind of fun to go through some of the older magazines. Most of these are 2012. So you can see there it's April 2012. It was a good year for the card issues. There's a lot of cards that I don't have yet. And so that's why I picked them up and got them for a good price besides. Okay, so then I want to start on the side where I cut it out. Let me go back to regular zoom here. Yeah, that'll see better. So this is where I cut it out along the magazine, and you're going to see the first perforation there. And all I do is I try to fold it at the perforation as I go along as best I can. Try not to bend the cards as much as possible. And then I bend it back the other way. So you might have to turn the paper around here and there to get a good bend. And now that's exactly why I don't do this while it's in the magazine. It's so hard to be able to move everything back and forth. Okay, so then I fold it back again. So I do this like 6 or 8 times just to get that perforation really loosened up, because this is the key edge. You have to get this edge right first, and then you basically just start trying to tear the cards apart from there. And I'll show you how I do that process too, what order I go in. Now, this may not be something you would ever want to do, but sometimes you can get much better deals on the cards when you buy them in full sheets or in the magazine or whatever than buying, you know, individual cards or even pre-torn out cards. So it's pretty simple from there. You just pull right down along the perforation. This one, this magazine issue was really nicely perforated, which helps. If you can, I'll show you the ones again from the last one I did. And they weren't perforated that great. So a lot of them, it's just kind of like torn edges. And especially along the side of the magazine, which is right here, they were not perforated really well. So I just kind of kept bending the paper until I could get it somewhat loosened up. Okay, so from here, so now this is actually our sheet of cards. We have no extra paper on here. So now we want to be really careful to make sure we're not tearing anything at this point. So what I do is I actually rip these down to the 3 columns now. I'll zoom back out a little bit. Oops, wrong way. I'll zoom back down, or excuse me, I'll tear these down to the 3 columns. So again, same process, work 1 row at a time, bend it back and forth, you know, 8 to 10 times, almost to the point where it sort of wants to fall apart, separate from each other naturally. I don't quite take it that far. You're fine to give it a little pull and let it come apart once you have, you know, 6 or 8 folds to it. And as you can see, it comes apart pretty easily then at that point. So we'll do the next 2 columns. And I've found that the columns tend to be a little bit perforated better than like the sheets across, like going this way. So that's why I do the columns first. As the smaller it gets, the easier it gets in many ways, but that's also the time when you could make the mistake and get a tear. Now, the other thing to keep in mind, and I pointed this out earlier before we started, you want to find out where your key cards are on the page and really focus on those. If I had to kind of tear out the Jimmy Howard in order to get to the Kevin Durant, you know, if you have to make a sacrifice per se, that's the route I would want to take. I wouldn't want to, the Shaun White is important. I certainly wouldn't want to lose that card. So you probably want to take a little bit more time and attention and focus around the bigger cards that are on the page. Okay, now we'll go down to, I think I can get into regular zoom for this. Now we'll do each individual card. So pretty simple here. You have basically like a photo strip, right? And you're going to do the same thing. You have to be careful not to bend the card. So one thing I do is I'll let it curl a little bit, but not all the way, so that I don't get a fold in the top of this card. And then I just pinch right where the perforation is. Now, once you have this, you know, folded a couple of times, you're not going to get that bend in the card anymore. You just keep going back and forth like we've done with all the other perforations. And then eventually, so how do you know that you folded it enough and that the perforation's loose enough? So generally what I do is, let me get this a couple more times here. What I'll do is I'll try to get a little tear in the top where the perforation is. And if I can get that little bit of separation, then I know I'm home free. And you can pull it out the rest of the way. So there's our Victoria card. So same thing, you're going to want to bend at that perforation, but you don't want to bend the card. So you fold it over a little bit, and then you pinch where the perforation is to get it to fold the rest of the way. And we'll do our 6 to 8 folds here to get that perforation nice and loose. I know some people, I've seen some videos where people will not try to fold it as much. They'll try to fold it and then try to, like, I don't know, run their fingers, you know, press it harder on that perforation. I don't really think that's necessary, and I think you could get damage to the card. You could get a fingernail mark there or little crease or something like that. You want to try to avoid as much of that as possible, of course. So I just believe folding it back and forth, watching on that first and second fold to make sure that you're not curling the card or, you know, creasing the card, and then just simply give it that little bit of tear along the edge to get it started, and then grab each end and pull it apart. Now, these card sheets are in a magazine, so a lot of times there's going to be some curve to it. There's going to be some slight, you know, dent or fold to it. There's really only so much you can do. But try to minimize, you know, as much of that as possible. Especially if you want to look at grading any of these. They're tough to grade in the first place. You don't want to put a curve or a fold or something like that in it and, you know, make your grading process even harder on yourself. So the Shaun White card is important, so I'm going to probably fold a few extra times just to make sure when I give it that tear, it's going to easily come apart. So I'm going to give her a little bit of tear there, and then go to each end of each card that you're separating, and then pull it apart. And there's our Shaun White. Alright, and then the last two in this row, same thing, of course. Fold, 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 fold. You can get pretty quick at this when you've done like 100 of them. But I certainly suggest starting off slow to make sure that you don't make any mistakes and get some tears. Okay, got a little bit of a tear start there, and then boom, pull them apart. Takes a little bit of bravery, but not stupidity to get these apart. So you want to make sure that, you know, you work on them and you get them to a comfortable spot where you feel like you can separate them, and then you just kind of got to go for it. So when you get to the really higher end stuff, you know, like the Serena Williams rookies or the Tiger Woods rookies, you know, if you're gonna buy full sheets with those cards in them, then you want to take as much time as you possibly can to avoid any kind of damage. So there's the Gronk. Like I said, some sheets are a little bit more perforated than others, so you can get away a little bit easier. This one's taking me about, I don't know, 2/3 of the time of the last sheet, because that one wasn't perforated quite as well. So you just kind of have to go with, you know, whatever they did in the magazine. You have to sort of go with that. Abby Wambach card is pretty important too. Can't remember if she was I think she started in 2010, I want to say, and this is 2012 cards. I'm not sure if, you know, she had any cards before this. I haven't really looked up that card at all, but won't be completely shocked if it's her first card. But I think they had already won a World Cup by 2012, so, or she has anyway. I have to think about it. Let's see, it looks like 2012 Summer Games, second all time behind Mia Hamm. It doesn't say anything about World Cup victories or anything like that. So anyway, I'll look a little further into that card. But then once you're done, you've got 9 super nice Sports Illustrated for Kids cards that you can now sleeve, top load, do whatever you got to do with them, and add to your collection or have them as individual cards for resale. So thanks again so much for watching. Please consider giving this video a thumbs up if you liked it, and share and subscribe and ring the bell and do all those fun things, and I'll continue to bring you more videos. That's it for today. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you again soon.
Bacao.